What it do, dirtbags? My name is Crucimix, and we're back at it again. How's it going? I'm having a pretty fine day myself, can't complain one single bit, just smoked 5 cigarettes back to back and I'm ready to record. It seems everything correlates these days like the moon and the tides, because as soon as Leafy returned, the drama with IDUBBBZ became 10 times as stupid. So buckle up, strap in, tie yourself to that chair, and light up a cigarette like your main man Crucimix, because as I promised last week, I'm covering the fallout of the creator-clash drama. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the drama surrounding this situation, I recommend watching my 2 previous videos on this subject, but if you're completely disinterested in that, I'll give you a little recap here. Creator Clash is a boxing event between various YouTube creators ran by the one, the only IDUBBBZ. Now, slated to take part in this event was Froggy Fresh, who conspired. He had a little machination. His goal was to train with the genius of Sam Hyde to become the greatest boxer of all time. But the powers that be are very anti-Sam Hyde. Despite last year not being all that temperamental with him, they were kind of indifferent, maybe, because they let one of their fighters train with him. This year, they decided they'd had enough, so they kicked Froggy Fresh from the boxing event. Now, before I get into the various screenshots and videos that I'm going to use to clown on everyone involved in this situation, I want to make my take a little abundantly clear. Sam Hyde has definitely made some jokes and various insults that would probably piss me off if I had a girlfriend that was getting made fun of by this guy, you know what I mean? If I had someone in my life getting just destroyed, getting epically owned by this weirdo, I would probably not want anyone associated with him in my fight, I'm not gonna lie. But that doesn't change the one very, very simple fact that the way IDUBBBZ handled this was incredibly lame, incredibly cringe. It was just about the worst, dumbest way you could possibly do things. Not only did IDUBBBZ not make it clear that it was going to be a deal breaker for Froggy Fresh to be associated with Sam Hyde, he actively muddied the water on information and didn't make anything clear until Froggy was already kicked from the event. And as you'll see in the following screenshots and various things I have to show you in this video, IDUBBBZ is revising history and muddying the timeline so that he can make it seem as if Froggy Fresh was actively making fun of Anissa prior to this event. I've said it before and I'll say it again, every single time one of these situations arise with IDUBBBZ, there's always a logical explanation taken to an illogical extreme. There's always a perfectly rational excuse, reason given so that the normal, sane human beings in his audience can point to it and be like, oh, he's just doing it for this reason, he's not bad for, you know, this, he's fine, he's just doing it because of that, that's normal. I would do the same thing in that situation. But if you ever actually take a look at his actions, you see a series of scummy behaviors that are using set excuses to hide all facets of this irreputable behavior. But that's enough explanation, time to get into the hard-hitting facts of this situation. Now, at the heart of everything is a little pseudo-content cop, a little update, a little addressing video that IDUBBBZ released recently, just kind of giving a little bit of feedback. He was really radio silent for a while, not giving any explanation. I talked about that in my last video, and it was just kind of insufferable. So he came out, released this video, and it sucks. It sucks mega dicks like a ball sack in a mousetrap. But if you were to only watch this video, you wouldn't really question what's wrong with it, so let me go beat by beat, talking about the various little plot threads and vines growing off of this tree. The first little arc of this story is the Rusty Cage saga. See, at the end of that IDUBBBZ video, he put in this little meme that epically destroyed Rusty Cage. It really owned him epic style. It was brutal. It was such a takedown. It was so awe-inspiring. It's incredible. I can't believe it, really. And I really think it just speaks for itself, so here it is.
I paid money, I'm on the floor seats, and I see like some shenanigans going down. I take a photo of it. It's just people holding up a sign. It said Froggy did nothing wrong. Like
seemingly innocuous.
Yeah, right. I go to this like after event and Anissa comes up to me. She comes up and says, that tweet was really not cool and I just apologize. I felt kind of like a bitch. I was like, why the fuck did I apologize?
Masculinity had been completely removed via Anissa.
It's kind of telling that he put this in this video thinking it didn't make him look bad, like this is somehow actually an own, like, yeah, it's so funny you added that little emasculating thing. That definitely covers up the example of your wife being incredibly thin-skinned and annoying. It's kind of telling, it's definitely showing that IDUBBBZ has become so severely out of touch that he can't realize just how cringe and insufferable this behavior is. And it's even funnier whenever you remember this this guy used to be the schoolyard bully, but now he's somehow turned into the kid that runs to the teacher anytime they see the slightest out-of-line action. All throughout this video, IDUBBBZ complains about the fact that people take away his autonomy when discussing him. They're like, oh yeah, Yoko Ono ruined this guy, it's all the woman's fault, but you really make it seem that way whenever you unabashedly put clips like this in your video without seeing even a single thing wrong with it. And then he goes on to cry misogyny as if this has anything to do with like the power between men and women. Like, no dude, she's just a cry bully and you're completely whipped. The act of going up to another person basically to demand an apology is just ridiculous behavior. That is the scummiest, the quintessential weakness of pride. That is the absolute lack of character right there. Anyway, after this little encounter with Anissa, apparently Rusty Cage decided he wanted to restore himself. He wanted to revive and recoup some of his losses of character. Like he said, it made him feel like a little bitch, so what he did was he got himself a little bit of a Froggy Fresh t-shirt to wear to the Creator Clash event. And hilariously, you can actually see it in the background of a couple promo images with IDUBBBZ. Now, one point in IDUBBBZ's favor, this is actually a really cool robe. This fighter robe looks fucking awesome. The way it's like Tingle from Legend of Zelda, that's great. That's such a great callback. I actually respect the hell out of that. Everything else sucks about IDUBBBZ now, but I respect that. Changing gears, gonna pivot here just a little bit. Leafy is here, appeared on Twitter. I didn't mean to rhyme that much, sorry about that. I don't really mean to drop bars like that. I understand it's not really what everyone's expecting from Cruise Mix. Anyway, he appeared on Twitter to laugh a little bit, just a little lighthearted nature, just laughing at this one image after Ian lost his fight. Just some good-natured clowning, but would you believe that Mr. Fragility over here decided to block Leafy over this? Now, whenever Ian released that video about Froggy Fresh, Leafy decided to continue the clowning by saying, this Puppet Master shit is hilarious, LMFAO. And yeah, it's pretty entertaining to see IDUBBBZ act all grandiose. What do you even say about this? I mean, it's almost arrogant, but arrogance is like funny whenever it's built on a firm foundation. This is like being arrogant about nothing. This is like a mall security guard acting as if he has the power of a cop. The guy who's too fat to catch the teenage shoplifters at Forever 21 is gonna tell you how badass and in control he is. He's just so stupid and cringe, dude. This is embarrassing for you. And wouldn't you believe it, after all of that, IDUBBBZ decided to block Keemstar as well. Now let's move on to the video itself and talk about a couple things that I just find incredibly stupid and just dumb. Just very dumb. Little points that he makes that are just not actual points if you know the situation. They're not quite lies, they're just misdirections, you know what I mean?
The main reason Froggy was kicked from the card was for collaborating with Sam Hyde. And, you know, for anyone who's been following the story, that's, you know, fairly obvious. Froggy has explained, you know, his side of the story multiple times. And unfortunately, he's been perpetuating a narrative that it's about OnlyFans or that it's about Anissa's mom. And that's extremely deceptive because he knows why he was kicked from the card. The one indication I gave him was Sam Hyde, and I wasn't unclear about that.
Now, this part actually kind of grinds my gears, because he says it's extremely deceptive to say that this had anything to do with Anissa's mom, when at the time, it definitely looked that way. It still kind of looks that way. I mean, she called Froggy Fresh an imp, and said he should be removed from the boxing match. I find that just kind of goofy as all hell. I mean, you know this, Ian. This is almost lying. Like, it's not quite, but you're literally complaining about him being deceptive when you're being deceptive. I mean, pretending that's not a factor is kind of not only insulting to Froggy because it's, you know, insinuating that he's just stupid or intentionally misdirecting or whatever, but it's also insulting towards your fan base because it's very obvious that you're only saying the words coming out of your mouth because it's going to misdirect the people who are only watching your video, the people who aren't going to look for context. Speaking to the importance of context, I'm going to link this video in the description, obviously. I highly recommend that you watch it. I know not everyone is going to do that, but if you think at all I'm being too harsh or my criticisms are lies in any way, definitely go check that out and form your own opinions, because it does paint him in a more favorable light, obviously. I just think a lot of that favorable light is misdirection. And I don't really have time to go point by point on every little detail here. I've kind of just selected clips that I find funny or, like, important to address, so definitely check it out on your own. Speaking of, it's on to the next clip.
I don't think Froggy respects sex workers. I think he has some really old, tired opinions about people who do sex work. I think he has a lot of weird opinions as well about masculinity and shit.
I think anyone who has any semblance of self-respect kind of doesn't respect sex work, you know what I mean? Because, like, sure, OnlyFans isn't nearly as bad as something like prostitution, but it's still degeneracy and debauchery and just hedonism, and it's all wretched and raises this, it literally causes a chemical reaction in your brain to make you feel disgust if you're wired the way you're supposed to be. For some reason, everyone acts now as if you have to champion just utter degeneracy, just horrible behavior, and it's like, yeah, it's acceptable that you do this. It shouldn't be illegal that you do this, but it should not be socially acceptable. It should be something considered repugnant by most average decent people. And I mean, it's fine that he's like married to a woman who has an OnlyFans. I would never do that, but it's like the people who call for him to get a divorce and all that, I just don't care that much. I just think he should be less of an annoying prick about it, but acting as if Froggy Fresh is somehow a weirdo for thinking this is weird whenever this is the most like absolutely abhorrent behavior to the most people. Like, oh yeah, he has some really tired opinions about masculinity and sex work. Like, no, that is not how this works. This is how everyone has felt for most of time. You suddenly decided it's different than it is in these big cities, and suddenly everyone's supposed to change for you? I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, maybe sex work is actually really based and cool, and I'm just missing out, and I should really go subscribe to like 15 OnlyFans right now and start gooning, but I don't think I'm gonna do that. Maybe if you feel that way, maybe you should just comment and tell me. Maybe you should tell me I'm wrong. Maybe you should try and change my mind. Convince me of that reality, that gooning is okay. Dear viewer, I am desperate. I am on my hands and knees begging and pleading with you. Please, please, I beg you, enlighten me. Tell me how you personally feel about gooning. On to the final point of this video, the final little clip I've selected for you.
By the way, we weren't suing Froggy. We have no interest in going to court over $15,000. We wanted that $15,000 back, but, you know, he wasn't giving it to us. So we have to leave it at that. You know, we're not suing him.
Froggy, if you're let back on, it's not like you're gonna make another OnlyFans joke about Denise, right? Like,
no, I mean, like, if they make me sign a contract that I can't, then I won't.
You know, I find it so strange because it's like, you know,
that was a joke. That was a joke. Obviously, I wouldn't do it.
Now, I show you this final clip because, arguably, this is a lie. This is almost objectively a lie. You could almost say it's just misdirection, but even at that point, this is still just blatantly false. And even at best, trying to, paint it this way is just incredibly scummy behavior. Now, why do I say this point's a lie? Well, Froggy Fresh has receipts. I'm not going to read this entire thing, but I'm going to give you the highlights here. Not only did creatorclash threaten legal action, they issued Froggy Fresh a cease and desist and an ultimatum saying he needed to sign a non-disparagement agreement. Literally an agreement saying he had to stop making fun of Anissa. Man, isn't it so silly that he would joke about Ian and Anissa pursuing legal action to get him to stop making fun of them? Isn't it crazy that he said they would make him sign a contract so that he would have to stop making fun of them? Isn't that crazy? Isn't that goofy? Isn't that such a silly thing? Isn't that so funny?
No, I mean, like, if they make me sign a contract that I can't, then I won't.
you know, I find it so strange because it's like, you know,
that was a joke. That was a joke. Obviously, I wouldn't do it.
Your attempts to clown on Froggy Fresh are like, there's such a cacophony of failed attempts in every possible way. Like, not only is it hypocritical, not only is it misleading, not only is it wrong and bordering on blatant lies, it's also just not funny. Not a good clown. It is a bad clown even if it was true. It is insane to me that you've fallen this far. Before I leave you guys for today, I'd like to point out one final thing. The like to dislike ratio. It's been hidden by YouTube, of course, but if you use a little thing, a little attachment, you can see it. You can see it again because Google actually just hid it. It's still there. You can just use an add-on, a Google add-on to see it again. Go ahead and dislike it because it still helps me in the algorithm. Thanks, guys. And then it's just this ridiculous 12K to 15K split. Anyway, that about does it for today. So if you managed to enjoy what you heard today, maybe you liked my voice, maybe you liked my commentary, or maybe you only cared about the story. Either way, give me a nice little subscribe. Do it now. I'm not asking, I'm demanding. I would really like for you to do this. It would make me so happy. And if you're really schizophrenic about me, if you're really in love with the Crucimix core personality, then you gotta go check out my Twitter. You gotta check out my Twitter. Anyway, my name is, has been, and will be Crucimix in the foreseeable future. I love you. Goodbye.
complex, second gig is calling it a night.
Excuse me?
Let's do a hot dog.
Yeah, I can see that.
Cowboy Bebop is coming up next on Toonami.